everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jenny and I'm here today to share with you a new Fresh Reads vlog. So for this vlog, I'm reading Old Soul by Susan Barker. I didn't really know anything about Susan Barker before starting this book. I believe The Incarnations was a very successful debut, and this is her second novel. I was intrigued by the premise of this. It is about this man who randomly encounters a woman at an airport, and in that encounter discovers that they have both been affected by this other woman, this very mysterious other woman, through friends. And so Jake, is the main character, sets out on a mission to track this woman down. And so that is where we are so far. I am, how far in? I'm on page 44. And the narrative is divided up into kind of two different scenarios. So one scenario is this woman and her kind of pursuit of people as they are, and you just get little snippets of her with these people. And then the other is the narratives of the people that Jake is interviewing about this woman. Yeah, so that's where I am so far. And thanks for joining me for this. And I will check in again, probably when I've reached halfway. So I am over halfway in Old Soul by Susan Barker, and I'm very absorbed in the story. At first I wasn't sure if I was going to be absorbed by it, because one of the first sections, maybe it's the third section. As I said before, the novel's divided into kind of a Badlands section where we're following the woman and these testimonials that are being gathered by Jake, who is trying to find the woman or understand what the woman is doing. And one of those is set in Japan. And I found the way that the author was talking about Japan and the things that were happening to the character were kind of like showing that she'd done a lot of research into brand names in Japan, and I found it strange. It was jarring. Sometimes when you're writing about products or clothing or brands and you insert them into a narrative just to make it seem like you're familiar with that space, it doesn't make sense because people don't think about what they're doing with a brand narration. So it's strange because that was really the only section that she wrote it that way. The rest of the time she's not using, like if she throws a brand name in there, it seems very natural, and it didn't stand out to me at all the way it did in that section. So that part annoyed me, and then I thought, oh, am I not gonna like this book? But I got in further, and now I'm very, very absorbed by it. I'm very compelled to find out, to kind of get to the source of what the woman is actually doing. She's hurting people, she's killing people, but the way in which that's happening is kind of mysterious. At first I thought perhaps she was doing a similar thing to one of the characters in Wild Seed by Octavia Butler, like essentially taking over a body and, you know, being reborn in a new body, but that does not appear to be what's going on. So yeah, I don't usually read these types of books, and so For me, this type of a thriller is quite a change in pace and quite enjoyable. And I am enjoying Susan Barker's writing. I was incorrect before when I said that this was her second novel. This is not her second novel. This is her fourth novel, apparently. The Incarnations was her third, but the novel that she wrote that kind of blew up, I guess. So, yeah, like I said, I'm enjoying it. I think that the way the story is being told, you're only really being with this character who is encountering the woman. Each of these characters, the testimonials, are people who loved someone who was killed by this woman. And every time the woman has a different name, and every time the woman approaches the situation in a different way, but ultimately the same things happen to these people when they're killed, when they die. So I'll check in again when I get further in the book or when I finish it. Hi all. Okay, so I just finished Old Soul by Susan Barker, and this was my I really enjoyed this book. So I would like to say that I think that a traditional thriller reader might not like this book as much as I did. And I think that's because it's kind of been marketed, I believe, as like literary fiction and horror. I wouldn't actually call it horror. I would say it's a thriller. In terms of the level of, I mean, there are some gross parts to it, but I'm not a huge fan of gross scenes in books. And I didn't mind the kind of, excuse me, the kind of references to decay and body-ish stuff that goes on in here, as much as I have in other books that weren't supposed to be horror or thrillers, or maybe they were as well. But anyway, some books, the way they deliver that type of material bothers me, like it actually turns my stomach. But in this one, I felt it was very brief. It wasn't, I don't know, it just didn't have that effect on me. I can't really explain why. So the literary part of the book for me was the way the characters were developed in the story. And some people said it went on too long, and I don't agree. I was completely engrossed in it. I wanted to know what happened. I wanted to find out how things resolved. I liked the ending because it's not, well, I'm not going to spoil what happens in the end, but it was a satisfying ending on a darker level. And for me, I like that. I don't like things that are all wrapped up in a bow and etc. The things that I said earlier about the book that bothered me in terms of the writing pretty much went away after the Japan section. Although there like, this is just really something that I think authors need to pay attention to when they're writing descriptions. it's really not important to talk about the brand of a food or like the brand of a drink, unless you're going to use the brand name as the descriptor completely. So for instance, if you're going to say, he was drinking a Coke, fine, say he was drinking a Coke. But you don't need to say there was a bag of Lay's potato chips laying on the table. Just say there's a bag of potato chips laying on the table. To say Lay's is nothing important other than for me to envision like a yellow bag, but like, why does that matter? That doesn't matter to like what's happening, unless the mystery somehow involves different types of potato chips, which doesn't. So this is just like a little pet peeve that I have for authors and how they describe things in the atmosphere. And to me, it just pulls me right out of the story. And I don't really know why exactly. I don't know why it bothers me so much, but I just find brand dropping, even if it's a brand I'm not familiar with, as was the case with the Japanese section of this book, dropping all these brand names, dropping all these very specific Japanese words that don't have any relation to the story, other than to make you realize that the author knows about Japan and does research about Japan. But like, that's not necessary for us to know. So that is my one problem with the book. The rest of it, I really liked. I think that it was a really compelling story. It made me want to find out what happened. And again, because I don't read a lot of thrillers, I think that's why I liked it. So for me, there is a very sweet spot for a thriller. It is a place where the writing is good and the story is compelling and I need to get through it to the end. That is where I want to be in a thriller. So if you read a lot of thrillers and you want lots of twists and you want lots of big moments of aha and you want lots of something like that, then I don't think you're going to like this, because that's not what this is. What I liked about it is the richness of the characters. Someone complained that it was just like these linked short stories, and I mean, you could call it that in terms of the fact that you're jumping from different characters, but all of them were so interesting. All of them came from, these different realities. And I really enjoyed that. And the other thing that this book did, which I love, and I think this is only the second time this year that a book has done this to me, is that I was entranced by it. I was like in its spell. I was like in the book and I couldn't stop reading the book and I wanted to just finish the book. That feeling to me is enough to give a book 5 stars. It's a feeling of, I need to finish this book. This book has caught me. It's pulled me in. I feel the same way when I'm watching a good movie or watching a good TV show. I'm wrapped up in it and I don't want to leave it until I've finished it. And that to me, like, that was this book to me. There is it's a supernatural thriller. I guess I should say that to you. So if you don't like supernatural thrillers, then you wouldn't like this. And I felt wrapped up in the spell of the story, if you will. I felt compelled to read it, as if I was being compelled the way the characters were compelled in the story. And I thought that was super fun and super entertaining and a really nice feeling for a fresh read. So I really enjoyed this. Again, if you are a seasoned thriller / horror / reader, then check out some reviews before you pick this up, because I'm not sure how someone who reads thrillers all the time would react to this. Because I can only tell you the way I felt, being someone that doesn't read them a lot and usually reads more literary fiction, and so found this to be just a really entertaining story. With good writing for the most part, with my former caveat included. And an ending that was, you know, not cookie cutter, I would say. Yeah, check it out. And that is Old Soul by Susan Barker. I finished this book so quickly. I could potentially get another fresh read on the go, so I'm not sure when I will pick up my next fresh read and vlog it, but you will find out soon enough. And I want to thank you so much for joining me for this fresh reads vlog, and I will be back again soon with another video.